Well, it's 11:30 just about, and here at KFJC we have a special guest this evening.
Oh.
Yeah, you.
Can you hear what's going on?
Yeah.
You can?
Yeah.
What from? Here. Hello. My name is Genesis P-Orridge, Throbbing Gristle.
Well, gentlemen, you're on.
On what?
On the air.
Oh, I thought you meant... Oh, yeah.
Well, we can start with some of the basic questions.
Oh, we got... Right.
Who are the members of Throbbing Gristle?
Who are the members of... There's Cozy Fanny Tootie, who's a young lady who works as a striptease dancer and topless go-go dancer in London, and she plays lead guitar.
Is she still working?
That's what she's doing, well, later on today. She takes her knickers off for money and then plays guitar for fun. That's basically it. Yeah, she works every lunchtime usually. And then there's Chris Carter, who plays keyboards and rhythms and does the mixing. And there's Peter Christopherson, who plays trumpet and tape machines and processing.
As in meat processing?
What? I can't hear this. What? I'm half deaf, you know.
Oh, sorry. As in meat processing?
Meat processing.
Or what kind of processing?
Well, you've heard the records all mangled. That's what he does.
Okay.
Processing.
Yeah, and then, well, there's me, isn't there? Yeah, I play electric violin, bass guitar, and vocals, and mumbling. Right.
How did Throbbing Gristle become a more or less musical group?
More or less. Boredom, of course. Well, we nobody else seemed to want to do it, and we just wanted to have some records we could play, so we decided we'd have to do it. We just did what was inevitable.
What was the story behind, what was it, cum transmissions, or I don't know how you pronounce it.
See, you ask something like that, but like that's 10 years.
Okay.
We did things for 10 years. It's from live sex shows in Amsterdam to art exhibitions in Germany and God.
So Throbbing Gristle has existed for 10 years?
No, not Throbbing Gristle. That's cum transmissions. That was kind of a performance group. We did a lot of sadomasochistic sexual things and pornography and various degrading acts in public, preferably. And then it kind of... We always did music as a hobby. And then we got bored with everyone thinking what we were doing was art, so we decided to spoil it by doing whatever else we were worst at.
How long? Excuse me.
So we just did the music. And it coincided with the beginnings of the punk thing in London.
Did you find that Throbbing Gristle's been confused with punk bands a lot over in England?
Initially, people expected us to do rock and roll, 3-minute rock and roll, because of the name and the image. But they soon learned. Many's the face of the young spiky head looking confused and catatonic, drinking his beer and spitting into his own mouth in shock.
How does one spit into one's own mouth? I'm curious.
You watch Throbbing Gristle, where you sort of spit and it bounces off the wall of sound and hits you back in the face.
Are most of your lyrics totally improvised when you perform live, or do you begin with a theme and go from there?
Mainly improvised. Usually I have a subject. If I've read a book that seems kind of interesting, or I've seen a motor accident, or something good on the television. I get a lot of ideas off the television news.
Is that the inspiration behind Hamburger Lady?
That was from a letter from a friend who's a kind of brain damaged doctor in Oregon, who used to be a Vietnam medic. And now he works in the terminal ward in Oregon, because I figured it out, he works there because if he controls the insanity and gets a kind of daily level, he doesn't go totally insane. Whereas if he tried to sort of switch off from that scene or sort it out for himself, he'd go totally over the top. So he has to have an amount of horror every day, and that way he can just about hold himself together. And he sent a letter describing one of the cases he'd come across, and I thought it was interesting. So we decided to try and do something that reflected in sound the situation.
I think that cut was very effective. I know a couple of people who become very uncomfortable every time that one's put on.
Yeah, that happens with a few things. Like the first side of Second Annual Report, when it first came out, the manager of Virgin Records took it home and played it to his girlfriend and went off to make a cup of coffee. And when he came back in the room, she was on the floor in tears, crying, "Get it off, get it off." And he told us about it. We were very proud of that.
All this talk about hamburgers and stuff's made me, well, I hate to say hungry, but curious to say the least. Why don't we take a break and listen to Hamburger Lady from the new Throbbing Gristle record? Fair enough?
Well, that's fine with me, Bob.
Good. Then we'll do it. This is KFJC with Hamburger Lady right now. From the third annual report of Throbbing Gristle. That was the Hamburger Lady. And gentlemen, continue.
Do you see yourselves as your statement as being, say, apocalyptic or a social comment?
Well, we just make up these phrases to try and trigger people's brains a bit. We don't actually decide which level they should be accepted on. We just want them to think about it a little bit. It's kind of accurate in a physical sense, but it also has implications. And then people have to start thinking for themselves once more and figure out why. We don't mind if they disagree or they think it's pointless. And then that's why the logo is actually the ovens at Auschwitz, which we didn't know until I went to visit, was actually referred to by the local people in Poland as the Factory of Death. So it came full circle, because 2 years later we discovered the logo was actually from a place called the Death Factory, so it became even more accurate. But we used that building because it was actually like a conveyor belt for death. But if you look at the picture of the building, it could be any old industrial building. And until you know what happened there, it's not at all interesting. And then when you're told what the building actually was, suddenly it gets a whole new image, a whole new feel. And people say, what a horrible, outrageous thing. But it's not the building that was, it's how it was used. So we're interested in the whole blurring between the way people look at things and then how they get primed into thinking a certain way by the information they're told about something.
This implies that you're somewhat of a historian or concerned about past crimes and whatnot.
Oh, yes. I'm concerned about the human race being stupid, basically. And that's gone on right through history, and we kind of use all the archetypes for human stupidity.
Well, do you look at it and laugh, or are you involved in trying to change it?
Well, that's something you have to decide, really.
Well, I figure you'd be the expert on it, so I'm asking you.
Yeah. Well, we don't give too many explanations, because if we did, people would stop thinking. That's the trouble with people at the moment. That's the whole point, is that they always want to be told what they're supposed to decide. They want a fixed answer on one level only, and there aren't any. There's lots of answers.
Do you gear your material towards achieving a certain reaction from an audience, or is it just put out there for the audience to respond to?
We try and predict in our own minds. We try to manipulate people, definitely. The more the merrier, really. And we like to always think about each record or track we've released and try and contradict it later in some form, so that they don't think of us as one formula. They think of each track on its own. And we just supply information, and then they take the information and analyze it or not. We give people complete freedom. We believe in individuals deciding for themselves. I don't think you can teach people anything. They can only recognize what they've learned from experience.
So instead of teaching, it's more suggesting and giving some data and letting people do what they want with it.
Yeah, well, we're interested in information. We're not interested in music as such. And we believe that the whole battlefield, if there is one, in the human situation is about information. Like, we don't think that politicians or armies have any real power. We think that's just a facade. We think the real power lies with who controls the information. And so we deal with information not normally put into that context, like a record or a live gig. And by doing that, it kind of redirects people's vision, and it condenses and focuses what they look at. Very abstract, hey?
Well, it's a roundabout way of answering my question.
We're always roundabout. That's why the records go roundabout.
Speaking of records.
He's a bully, this Bob. Hey.
I'm here.
You're a bully.
I'm sorry.
Big Bob's. We went to Big Bob's for chips on the way here. That's why we're on time.
Wasn't it Bob's Big Boy?
That's the one, yeah.
Grease.
Disgusting. I've got a stomachache now. Yeah.
Welcome to America. That's the home of fast foods.
Yes, they're trying to bring it to England now. It's horrible. I had a big conference with all these American guys saying you've got to eat all this stuff, you know.
It's revenge for the revolution.
You're revenging yourselves on us for us losing. That's disgusting. I want to make this point. Can I do it now?
Yes, by all means.
I came here and I got here on July the 4th, and I've done nothing but complain since. I want to make it clear that we want to reclaim America for England, and we're going to claim all the back tax as well. And that's the only reason we've come to America to play at all.
You can have my back taxes.
Can I?
Yeah.
Great.
So I'm about $200 behind.
So we think, you know, they made a big mistake letting you lot get away with it. I'm really disgusted with the English. We lost all that money and petrol, all that power. We could have messed up Vietnam for you.
And all this sunshine, too.
What sunshine? I hate the sun. I come from the rainy city, Manchester.
Well, then what are you doing in California?
Visiting friends, Monty. I'm just here on a reconnoiter.
A reconnoiter?
Yes.
I'll look around.
Well, we're all coming back in September, the whole group. And then we may or may not, depending on the sniffing about, do something quietly.
Like play live?
Maybe, if something. Yeah, a demonstration. It depends. I mean, we got to find the right place and the right situation. We don't want to go anywhere that's a rock and roll place.
I'll stay away from the Mabuhay.
Yeah. Oh, God, the Mabuhay. I didn't even go in. I went in the porno shop next door. I got lots of postcards of Carol Dodar.
Carol Dodo?
Dodar?
Doda, excuse me.
It says, everyone needs milk, even Carol Dodars.
Okay, as Dirk would say. Should we hear another sampling of Throbbing Gristle, if you don't mind me bullying you around?
Oh, of course not, Bob. I love to be bullied.
Oh.
Get the whips out later.
We'll see what we can do. We have a new single that's sort of new, I guess. It's old material. Well, old material. Is 76 old material? We already went through this, didn't we?
Yes, well, the idea is that one side's 76 and one side's 79, so it spans 3 years. So you're getting 3 years material in one record. Just there's a big gap in between that you can't hear.
Well, that's what the inner groove's for, right? Moving right along.
Yes, that's right, Bob. Yes, yeah.
I'm mellow.
I'm a really laid-back man, you know.
Well, I got the tan to show it.
Yeah.
We're going to hear We Hate You, Little Girls.
And Carol Doda.
It is dedicated to Carol Doda?
Yes, please.
All right, let's hear it. Not exactly the kind of stuff you'd like to fall asleep to. That's the new single from Throbbing Gristle, We Hate You, Little Girls, dedicated to Carol Doda, who's not such a little girl herself.
That's true.
She was the perfect 36 at one time.
Perfect 46.
Yeah, now she's the perfect 89.7.
With Silicon Valley.
That's us.
Now that Throbbing Gristle have put out their third and final report, what's the next step?
Well, first of all, we used the money from that to do a single by Monty, who's here, and then an EP by a Swedish group called Leather Nun.
Their first?
Eh?
Have they done anything before?
No, none of them. And then the first LP by Robert Rental and Thomas Lear. And then after that, we are going to do a new TG LP, which should annoy all the people who think they're fans, we hope. And that should leave us free to do what we want afterwards. We're trying to cast off anyone who thinks they like us so that we feel not bullied or...
Well, we're going to keep liking it just because you don't want us to.
That's the thing that worries us the most. Well, as long as you do that, that's fine. It's the people who think they've figured out what we're doing that we want to sort of lose.
I can't imagine anyone even bother trying.
Yeah? Oh, that's good. What are you asking questions for?
For our amusement.
He's at it again. I'm told there's 50,000 people out there and the record sales have just dived. They think if they're going to play records like that, we're not buying any more.
It's already sold out.
Is it? Oh, yes, so it is. Oh. Never mind. They'll still think the next one's going to sound like that, but it won't.
So tell me, what's the theory behind putting an album or a single or something out in limited enough quantities just to piss everybody off that didn't quite get there in time?
We're just perverse. That's all there is to it. There's no big theory behind that.
That's a good answer.
I remember getting the letter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I remember that with the playlist. Questions.
An off-the-wall question here. What happened to the calendar of the nude little girl that came with the first copies of DOA?
What, you didn't get one?
No.
Well, the reason is there was a copy in with the first 1,000 that went to shops, and then only in the mail order ones after that. So we got lots of letters from people saying, My friend got one and he got a calendar of a new little girl, but I never got one. Why not? However, if people write to us direct, even now, they usually get one. We're going to beat that. We're releasing 24 hours of live tapes all in one set.
Only one copy, right?
Oh, no. No, there'll be as many as people want.
Really?
And you can buy them individually if you don't want to buy the whole lot. And we're going to put in a list of recommended, 7 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 1 out of 10.
The hits, in other words.
Oh,
right?
No hits, just everything, The good, the bad, and the totally indifferent.
Right. The hits thing reminds me, that one song, United,
yeah,
which is not really characteristic of the rest of the material, and to the point where it's almost a pop song.
Almost,
but not quite.
Yeah, we've been trying to live that down ever since.
Well, I thought I'd bully you around some more.
Yeah, that's all right. Carry on.
I read in an interview that you said that the reason you put that on the album as a 16-second track was to annoy people who thought they'd be getting the single.
That's right, free, yeah. Well, people always, that's why there was no times on the back, you see, so that people wouldn't know it was a short version until they looked on the center label. And then they'd think, oh, great, I'm getting United as well, I don't need to buy the single. Or else they'd say, oh, they're just doing what everyone else does and putting a hit single on the LP.
Oh, yeah.
So that's an example of us trying to manipulate response a little bit in advance. But actually, if you turn it by hand very, very slowly you can just about tell what it is.
Couldn't do that with Zyklon B Zombie, though.
No. Oh, well, that just stands on its own, really, I think. Oh, he wants us to carry on talking. He's waving his hand. I want to hear Robert Rental. Can we hear a track off the... You ready?
It's not on mic, I guess.
I'll just tell everybody what it is. This is an LP we recorded at Industrial Records the week before I came out here, and I've got a cassette of the tape which has absolutely no titles at all yet, but should have been cut by the time I get back, and will be out around September. And they're two Scottish guys who both did singles that are on that Business Unusual compilation, and we went along and said we wanted to do something together. They've never done anything together before, although they've known each other a long time. And it was recorded in their flat in a big council estate in South London. We hired loads of equipment and took it down to this tiny flat, and they kicked their girlfriends out and just stayed up for 2 weeks just recording.
We're going to hear Robert Rental and Thomas Lear, cut 1, side 1. Here we go. Before we get too far carried away, this is KFJC Los Altos Hills. It's 1 minute after midnight, and we are in the process of talking with Monty Cazazzo and Genesis P-Orridge of various industrial records projects. And we were talking. Let's continue. Sounds like that's about it.
Yep.
Let's put that one on hold for a moment. And that was Robert Rental and Thomas Lear from an album that is even untitled title-wise.
Yeah, maybe they'll have thought of something to say when we get back, I don't know. Should be cut anyway. But maybe it'll just be left just with their names on, like just Thomas Lear and Robert Rental. Doesn't really matter.
Sounds like it's a little bit more accessible than what we are used to from industrial.
Oh, it is, which is a very good way to lead into our guest here tonight. Because as we're talking about other people on the label, we've got Monty Cazazzo here, who is definitely inaccessible. In fact, the NME, when they reviewed his single, which came out in England about 3 weeks ago, they had the best single, single of the week, best of the rest, and then a special section called Hell for Monty Cazazzo. We wanted the first record by someone else on Industrial to make it clear that United and other things like that were not the only side of the coin, that we weren't going to suddenly go normal.
About Monty.
Well, he's here. Why don't you ask him something about it? I'd like him to talk.
Should we listen to it and then talk about it?
Can we listen to it? Yes, good. And then all talk, you see.
Okay, let's do that. I'll tell you what, we were talking about the popular aspects of
Robert Rental.
Of Robert Rental and Throbbing Gristle. And for those of you who have never heard the Throbbing Gristle hit, I thought we should hear United.
Yeah, okay. So we'll play United and then To Mom on Mother's Day.
Will do. The new 45 from Monty Cazazzo, To Mom on Mother's Day. I would say interesting. Monty.
Yeah.
Come in, Monty.
Yeah, I'm here.
Any particular relevance to or significance to that title?
No.
No, just random.
No, it's not random.
You don't have to look at him.
It's not random.
It's about Mother's Day.
It's about Mother's Day. I mean, everybody has a mother.
True. Some more in touch than others.
That's true.
Did you give your mother a copy?
No, like my mother's like she's like Sicilian, you know. If I gave her a copy, she would like, you know, hire some mafia hitman, come and shoot me in the head with a 22 and they'll probably end up in the Berkeley Marina or something. You know? So no, I didn't give her one. She'd get upset. She's upset enough already, probably.
Was this recorded in this area?
No. It was recorded when I was in England.
Which was how long ago?
78.
Yeah, 78.
Yeah. Well, it's not quite as simple as that. What happened was Monty came over to England and we instructed him that he was going to make a record because he had no interest in records. And then he wrote the lyric with Judith Bell, who lives in Los Angeles, and we got him to do the vocals first, and we put headphones on him with an electronic bleep going through so he couldn't hear his own voice, and recorded the vocals, and we didn't let him listen to any of the vocals afterwards. We did 6 songs. And then we kept the tape till he'd come back to America, and all the music was added later with 2 guitars and a drum kit. And so when the record was released, Monty had never heard any of it at all. And the first thing he received in the mail was actually a review, and he still hadn't heard the record.
Do you like what came out of it, Monty?
Yeah, it's okay.
So it's kind of a new approach to doing a record, but it's the ultimate record company situation where they don't bother to tell the artist what he's done even. And his contract is nice too because it's signed in blood and it's for life.
Whose blood?
Well, the directors of Industrial Records have signed in blood, and Monty and a witness have signed in blood. And we've got photos of them slashing their wrists. And then it's for life, and he's entitled to no royalties. And he has to deliver enough songs for 2 records a year, but we have no obligation to release them, and he's never ever allowed to record for any other label.
Benevolent. How did Industrial Records become so benevolent?
Well, we just looked around at CBS and Warner Brothers and took a hint from them.
We're in trouble.
Are we in trouble?
No, it's okay.
I like to be in trouble.
Go ahead and lampoon anyone you wish.
Eno. We've been talking about Eno while we were listening to those records.
Well, fire.
What were we saying about?
Let's not deprive the audience of...
The downhill slide of Brian Eno.
The downhill slide. He never started up. He went from the gutter down into the drains.
Would you care to back that up with some philosophy?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't have philosophy. I just have gossip.
Okay, gossip will do then.
Yeah. Well, I was saying that he was the first person to try and get Throbbing Gristle to record on a real label. Could you call the label? He wanted us on Obscure Records. And he heard about us doing a piece of music with 12 bicycle wheels. And breaking eggs and things. It was kind of silly, but we were having fun, passing the time. And he kept ringing us up and saying, "You people are really strange, you must come down and play us your tape and I'll make a record of it." And we said, "Well, okay, we'll play you the tape when..." And he'd make a time, and then we'd ring to check it was okay to go, and he'd say, "Oh no, you can't come tonight because I'm meeting John Cale and I'm trying to reform the Velvet Underground with me in it." And so... after about 6 weeks of him postponing it because he was telling us he was then working with David Bowie or Bowie and he kept just telling us famous people that were more important than his meeting with us. We just literally told him to fuck off. And then beg your pardon?
Beep.
Oh, beep. Yes. And then 10 minutes later, "Hello America, you don't know these words." 10 minutes later he rang back and said he was very sorry because I think he realised he might lose money.
How?
Well, he knew he could sell the records, and he's basically into money, you know. He's only a wimp. He's ever so wet when you meet him. He's going bald, and he always has a feminist girlfriend, and, you know, he sort of dresses low-key and talks about tape recording worms.
Sounds like he'd do real well in California.
I doubt it. I mean, even the Californians could see through that facade, actually. Although I must admit, this journey, this time, I really am confused by America this time. Last time I came, I kept saying, "It's not really so bad. They're not that crazy." But
we are.
Yes, definitely.
Would you care to cite a particular example aside from this radio station?
No, this is all right. We came here because you were nice on the phone. And we got a good letter. I like the letter that came, too, to England.
I forget what it was.
Well, it actually was helpful. It said, you know, it wasn't just asking for free records. It said, "This is the kind of stuff we play, and here's the playlist to prove it." And it was straightforward. And you said, you know, if you send records, we may play them, which is all we want to know. Whereas everyone else either pretends that they're not trying to scrounge free records or asks for them, and then when they get them go, "Oh, God, what the hell's this?" and never play them. That's why we've not done any of the other radio stations in this area, because you've played the records. and we decided we wouldn't do the other ones.
Hopefully.
Hello, Mr. Klein, or whatever your name is. What's his name? Is that it? Klein? You miss out, Mr. Klein. Nah. Where were we up to? I was just getting into the mood. Oh, yes, right. Americans, why are they strange? Yes. Well, that's the thing. This time, I'm not sure. It's hard to... I'm trying to pinpoint it desperately while I'm here. But it's basically a total lack of reality. I know that's an awful word to use. I hate abstract words. But I haven't... Like you go past a street full of people and there's nobody there who's actually aware they exist. They're going through motions, but you can tell they're just in a TV program. And all these are such cliches, I know that, but I never realised before that there was basically nobody living here. Does that explain it?
I can see it from a lot of people that work in what we call Silicon Valley, because they basically spend their lives working their 8 hours, going home, watching TV, going to sleep, and on the weekends going to Lake Merced.
Right, you're now a component of the workforce.
It's very hard to pinpoint what the crucial point is where they lose contact, but there's just nothing coming off them at all. It's very peculiar. It's very uncomfortable. I keep looking at them and like in the bank or the shops and in the cafe, Big Bob's or whatever it was, Big Jobs, I don't know, that place down the road, and I can't feel anything at all. They're just like they're not flesh. I mean, I really can't explain it except that it's worrying, and I'm glad I don't live here now.
Well, how different is it in England?
Well, in England, even the idiots kind of have a certain gutsy smell and things, you know.
Everyone here is deodorized.
Yes, in every way, mentally most of all. That's the horrible part. The brains have gone in a lot of people. It sounds awfully arrogant, but I think I can afford to be arrogant with America. I mean, the huge populace. I mean, the good thing is that because of that, it's easy to pinpoint the people who do think.
This brings to my mind, if there's anyone out there that would like to pose questions now that we're getting into this, let's get offensive.
No, I'm not being offensive.
Well, let's be open and honest and vent our feelings. If you have questions you would like to ask Genesis or Monty, by all means give us a call at 948-8819, and we will have operators standing by. And that way we can translate the message up here to the Brain Trust, if you'll excuse the expression.
I wish there was some to trust. Hey, they're in already. A phone call already saying, who is this English person?
Get rid of them.
So this...
Well, Monty's American, and I know he doesn't like living here and he doesn't like America. Maybe you should ask him why he feels not at home in his own country.
Okay, that's a good one. Monty.
Yeah?
Well...
Because people hate me, that's why, for no real reason.
Why? Why do they hate?
I really think it's like a biochemical feeling. They're not sure. They can't intellectualize like why they hate me. You know, I just like walk down the street and for no particular reason at all, someone will go by in their car and say something nasty or throw a brick. Or if there's 6 or 7 of them, then they're really tough. You know, they'll get out and chase me, or who knows what the hell they'll do.
Perfect opportunity to.
Yeah, it's a perfect opportunity. Oh, I do.
Good.
But I mean, like, you know, the only time they'll do it is usually when there's a bunch of them. But there's no real reason that they do it. You know, basically I think it's because they're unhappy with their own life. Maybe jealousy, and I don't even see why they're jealous of me, because I certainly don't have, like, I don't own a big car, big home, or I'm not rich. So, you know, I can't see why they act that way.
You're not within the norm.
Yeah.
That upsets people.
Right.
I believe.
And I think they sense that, like, I can stand on my own, you know, and they don't like that. They don't like that because they're afraid to admit that they're on their own and they're going to die on their own, and that's it. And they're born on their own.
I guess people like to be in gangs as well. They like to feel part of a gang right down the line, from kids at school right up to politicians or religions or any dogma. And when they see somebody who says that they're prepared to figure out their own philosophy and stick to it regardless of the trouble, they always want to stamp on it, the old story.
It's like that cliche, you know, no club, lone wolf.
But this time it's got to the witch hunt. You know, you had the Live at the Witch Trials on earlier on with The Fall. I don't like The Fall, but it's a good title for an LP, because I'm sure the witch trials are coming again. And we're the kind of people, not just us, I mean you here too. A lot of the young people now, that's why they feel the way they do, and they're getting more extreme. They realise they're the witches of the future, and they're in great danger. And America is always a step ahead. And the people here are trained to stamp quicker, and they have more weapons to stamp with. And when the earthquake comes or whatever, they're just going to go out there and they're going to be so terrified they're going to shoot anything that doesn't fit in. So beware and get guns.
I don't have to worry about it. I'm going to be buried underneath records.
Well, it's a good camouflage. Black vinyl for the night.
Oh, that was again.
I love
KFJC.
Hello.
Hello.
We have some phone calls from some people. We're going to attempt to put them on the air, and if you can hear them, we're going to go ahead and just put them on and see what happens, okay? So be prepared for anything.
Screams. And
listener.
Deodorized with sanity for your protection all over the toilet seat.
Hello, listener.
You know, just, I hadn't really figured that out till he said something about it. And I just wanted to thank him for it.
What did he say? Sorry, could you say that again?
One more time. Listener?
Hello? Thank you for the thank you, but what have we done?
Repeat it. Repeat it. We can't hear you.
Oh, he's...
Sounds
yeah.
Turn down your radio.
No, it's okay. He was nice, whoever he was.
He just got scared off.
Oh, well.
Thank you anyway.
Let's try the other caller, okay? Hello?
I have a question for Monty Kazazas.
Yeah, okay. Shoot.
When I heard your name, I sort of freaked out because I'd heard it once before about 4 or 5 years ago at Marine World Africa, USA. And I was wondering if you could see any connection in this. The idea, it was the only time I'd ever ridden an elephant. They have an elephant ride up there. And when I got off the elephant, I heard this little kid ask his mother. And he said, Mommy. She said, what? And she said, what's the matter? And he says, the elephant hurt my kazazas. Do you see any connection here with your work?
No, not really. I know there's a castle in Italy named after me. I'm going to try and appropriate it when I go over there because I think it really does belong to me, but that's all I can say.
Okay, well, check out that elephant. I think there may be a connection. Thank you very
little
much.
boy.
And I really got off on your music there in both ways.
Oh.
So thank you now.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you later. Okay.
I told you America was strange.
And they all listen to us. Oh.
That was again.
I love
KFJC.
Hello.
Hello.
You're on, listener.
I'm Howie Klein, and boy, am I pissed.
I like it.
Thank you, listener.
Very good.
Oh, let's try it again.
Nice
Listener,
one.
you're on the air.
We're getting all the industrialists in now.
Okay, you're on the air, kid.
Hello.
Hello.
I've got a question for Monty Kazaza.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you tell me something you do like?
That I do like?
Yeah.
Okay. Just yesterday we went to the firing range. I like going to the firing range. It's lots of fun.
That's true. Up in Oakland, we went to the shooting range and fired pistols for ages and ages.
I would also like to ask Genesis a question.
Yeah.
Or ask him to talk about something.
You're
Could he
English.
talk about the British Post Office?
You're English.
Could you prove that?
I can tell from the accent, dear.
It's only a rumour.
I have telepathic powers. I can tell.
It's obvious to us. But anyway, what do you want to know about the post office? Me being prosecuted or what?
Yes, I'd like to hear about persecution.
But does everybody else want to hear about persecution? That's very old.
No.
All I can say is I was once prosecuted for sending indecent mail and fined £300, and the next time I get caught, I get 12 months in jail. There's a book on it anyway. You can buy it. It's called GPO v GPO.
Still in print?
Yeah, it's still in print. Yeah.
Then it must not be an industrial records project.
No, it was printed by the Eckhart Gallery in Geneva in Switzerland. Basically just to make sure that if all our files were stolen and burned, people could still find out what happened, that's all. It's no big deal.
Satisfied, listener?
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay. See you later.
See ya.
Bye. You are listening to KFJC, and we do have all kinds of interesting things going on here, if you haven't already picked it up. It's just about 12:30, and we're going to continue on.
Is that it? No more phone calls?
Well, that seems to be it for the time being. If anyone would like to ask questions of either Genesis or Monty, by all means call in. The number should be 948 8819, and we do have an operator standing by.
Do you want some more music now, mister? That's what they usually do at this point.
At this point, I think we should hear some music. This single over here, Non?
Yes, it's a guy called Boyd Rice, who lives in El Cajon, near San Diego. He's American, very thin, very white, and he says that he's called his music industrial music. He wrote and asked us if we minded because he said it didn't seem to fit any other genre. And he sent us this single, and we really like it, and everyone out there should try very hard to find a way to buy it. I don't know where the hell you'll buy it, but if you ask enough, maybe people will get hold of it. He played one concert maybe a month or so ago in San Francisco, and even a lot of the people who go to the Mabuhay were going out saying it hurt their ears, and that can't be bad. So the thing is, he can play it at 16, 33, 45, and 78.
Okay, I've got it tried basically straight, and if need be, we can go through it in its various forms.
It's got 2 holes as well, so that what we said we'd try and do was play it at 45 in the normal hole first.
I've got 33.
Oh, well, at 33 through the second hole?
I got 45. No, I've got 45 through the center hole.
Okay, we'll try it that way.
Let's try that and then see what we come up with, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Seems to be the bulk of that song. Any good stories we have on that?
Oh, we were just talking about San Francisco, and that he has a guitar, but he has a big domestic fan strapped onto it so that when he plays, it kind of shoots out of his hands. He's a very anti-music person, and his records are anti-records. I like it because he's so extreme.
What's his name again?
Boyd Rice. That's Boydrice, but we call him Boiled Rice. In our typically English flippant manner. But I like him, and he's American, which is good. It's good to know there's life in San Diego apart from the scorpions.
Apart from the scorpions?
Well, there must be scorpions. It's a desert. I mean, don't forget the English are very uneducated about America. We just assume everywhere's the way we're told on the TV.
We're going to have to use you as a liaison then.
Everything's two-dimensional, and it flashes across the screen 30 times per second.
Oh, that's you talking. Wasn't that good? It sounded like it was somebody ghost.
We have another caller on the line. Caller?
Hello?
Caller, come in.
Yes, it's me.
Go.
Yes, I would like to ask what exactly were the ramifications of the curdler system.
The curdler. Somebody's been reading Search and Destroy or the industrial news. Well, Monty knows a little bit about what's happened to it, and he was the one who originally sent us the information. So I guess he should answer what happened to that.
Okay, originally was developed to be used in Vietnam from helicopters, right? When they wanted to they'd fly over Hamlet, right? And they wanted to make an announcement like, everybody get out, because we're going to burn it down. Okay? Everybody get out, because we're going to burn it down, right? So they had to develop this portable sound speaker system. So what they did was then, they worked on it for a long time. And then what they eventually did is they filtered down to police departments so they could break up riots, stuff like that, because you can send high frequencies through it. It just drives you deaf. I mean, on the streets at night, it's really insane.
A way of using sound in order to make people susceptible to certain stimuli.
No, they wanted, whenever there would be a demonstration, they want to break it up as quickly as possible, and it's crowd control mainly. I've been trying to get a hold of one, but it's really difficult. The company that made it was in Alexandria, Virginia, home of the CIA, but they've gone out of business, supposedly.
Who are the CIA?
So the firm
Actually, they are going out of business.
But we're trying to get one second-hand from the Army surplus at the moment. And the thing broke up frequencies in such a way that if people were chanting slogans, the slogans got kind of harmonics that made them unintelligible, and also it engendered a metabolic feeling of panic, because all sound doesn't just go in the ears, it goes in all the body all the time, of course. And so the cells felt uncomfortable. The frequencies were very uncomfortable, and people felt frightened and just wanted to get out of the area. So it was, the police have the access to it, and like all these things, they don't have to use it, but they like to know they have the chance.
I see.
Does that help?
Another thing also I'd like to ask is that if throbbing gristle in the music and the frequencies, if they're trying to generate a certain state of mind as stuff.
Yeah, we do. We use subliminals and high frequencies mainly, especially in live gigs, which of course you won't have experienced probably. But When we play live, it's much different to the records. Although there are bits of live things on record, the first time we tried to cut Second Annual Report, it blew up the machine because of the frequencies. And they said it was impossible to make a record with those frequencies, and we had to remix the tapes, which was a pity. But I think that explains the story that I was saying earlier, the anecdote about the woman feeling upset and not knowing why. We also use negative ion generators, very, very big ones. And we've been using them for 3 years, but in England until 6 months ago they were illegal. So we never used to tell people. Now we're allowed to say we've got them, but the actual strength of them is still 9 times the legal limit. And we use subliminal cut-up tapes that people can't hear with instructions or messages. And we test out high frequencies and low frequencies on ourselves. Chris Carter, who's our electronics whiz kid, builds gadgets all the time, builds synthesizers, and we both did experiments with very, very, very high frequencies in our studio. And he got tunnel vision, and then he went blind, and our clothes were moving as if there was a strong wind, and yet there was no wind. And we could actually see crisscross patterns in the air. I didn't go blind, he did. We both got different effects. I got very hungry, and we did it for about maybe 10 minutes. And all the things in the room were, of course, moving, like there was a strong hurricane. And we used to finish when we played live with 10 minutes of ultrasonics, so that people would leave feeling incredibly confused, which I think is very close to the curdler effect, in fact.
What is the curdler effect?
The curdler was the thing he referred to before, which was the police riot control system, which, again, projected very high frequencies at crowds from a battery-operated generator.
It's this, I forget the title of it, but what you were referring to that was illegal until recently. What made it become legal again, or legal for the first time?
Well, big business and vested interest, of course. They discovered that the air conditioning systems in America were producing positive ions, and positive ions now medically can be seen to paralyze the little hairs in the lungs and the tubes in the lungs that get all the dirt out of your lungs and shove it up to the top. And also positive ions create headaches and can create nausea. And negative ions are created by, say, lightning and thunderstorms or something like that. And you know how people say, I feel better after a thunderstorm, and they also get headaches before. Well, this was always thought to be an old wives' tale, and now they realize there's actually a physiological explanation. So once they saw that negative ions, which are the opposite of positive ions, cancel that effect, their reasoning for making it legal is that in offices, if they build them into the air conditioning, the people feel better, don't get headaches, therefore work harder and are more productive, like Muzak. Also, strip lights, neon lights, they have part of the spectrum missing and cause hypersensitivity and, again, headaches, and also they have a negative effect on the brain's functions. So once they realized that they being, whoever you want to call the control process, but business or whoever could get a kind of increased activity and productivity from the people who were sat in these horrible little square holes, then it was suddenly legal after being quackery and ephemeral science for a long, long time. But we were interested in subliminal effects on people and using control systems back in an anarchic way, demonstrating effects in live situations, and that's why we were using them. But we had to pay somebody secretly to build us some industrial-sized negative ion generators. And of course, then suddenly everyone goes, "Oh, wow, man, you've got negative ion generators, that's great." But until then, we had to keep quiet. We just called them machines. We used to say, those are just machines in the corner. But the only time we played live and had a really big fight was the day we didn't take them with us. I mean, it's something you can't measure. You can't go out and say, somebody's sat in a hall and it's on, and they don't suddenly feel high or anything. But there is a tendency towards a feeling of relaxation and well-being, which we thought was, why not have that as well, And the 2 or 3 times when it's either been on a very short time or not on at all, we've noticed were the times when things got heavy. So that's the nearest we can get to scientific evidence. But we believe that it does make people feel better. And we like to use any technique that we read about and check out what's going on.
Okay, I've got a question that will follow a caller we have on the phone. Caller?
Yeah, I was wondering what you used as far as lighting went in your concerts, because you mentioned earlier that neon lights can produce disconcerting effects, and things like lasers can and very, very bright lights can produce kind of strange effects too. But do you use things like that in your concerts?
At the moment, all we use is halogen lamps. Do you know what those are? Halogen lamps? Hello? Oh, well, anyway.
Headlights in foreign cars.
In England, they use them, for instance, on the motorway when there's a big crash, or in railway marshalling yards, and they're used in photographic studios. They're very, very bright white light, and we usually have 2 or 3 of them facing the audience, so that if they try and look at us, they get temporary blindness and they can't focus on any people. They just see a kind of blurred silhouette, and it burns the retina out if you try and stare straight into it.
I've got a question then about, you mentioned about people trying to affect them in your performance. And I imagine you've managed to get some comments from people about how they perceived your concerts.
Yeah, it's strange. Most of the comments sound either like almost religious experience, or even more commonly, some form of drug addiction. People's comments are very closely related, much more to a physical sensation. They very rarely mention it in a musical way. They talk about it as a complete experience and being disoriented, but also excited and stimulated physically, as if they've taken a new drug. And the people who really get into it, they come to every single gig, wherever it is. I mean, they travel 400 or 500 miles. And it's as if they need a fix, and they actually immediately say, when are you on again? When are you on again? And we used to originally refer to it, before we thought of the industrial music tag, as metabolic music. And we always wanted to make it something that was for every part of the body, both disturbing and relaxing and stimulating and boring.
Now, would you consider that success? Is that what you have in mind in performance?
Well, I don't want them to come and say that was a great guitar lick. I'd much rather they came up and said... it's actually, there's also a delayed action effect. Like, people would say, that wasn't music and I hated that on the day it happens. And then a week later they'll write or ring and actually say, I couldn't get it out of my mind. It kept haunting me and I'm really glad and I really like it now. Yes, that's what we want. We want to create something which you can't get any other way. That's what live music is meant to be about. We don't want it to be like the records. When you go and see us live, it's different to records, and that's the whole point. It's extra. It's not the same thing regurgitated just to be entertaining. It's a physical, mental, and intellectual experience. And it's noise, too, in its broadest sense.
Okay. Well, should we take a break and hear some music for a little while?
Yes, by all means do.
I do have this queued now for this non...
The other version.
The other version. I've got it at 45 on the outside track. Is that what you had in mind?
What you need is 33 on the hole that's not in the center, right, and on the third track.
Third track?
I think. Otherwise it'll throw the needle off and smash it.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
But this is what we need at this high finance station.
Yes, which I don't think is wise at this stage. I like it because it has physical effects on the equipment, this record, which is an interesting extension.
For those of you listening at home, we have a single here with 2 holes in it. This hole is going to annoy our engineers, but we're going to do it nevertheless. Is this the desired effect? All right.
That's right.
You're listening to KFJC.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the first time it's ever been on the radio. And I like it because the structure of it does about 4 or 5 things that nobody's bothered to done before.
Such as?
Well, the 2 holes and the loop tapes, and the B-side is just completely clear, no grooves on it at all, so when you put the needle on, it just hangs on the spot you put it, makes its own groove and just gives you the sound of the surface. And he's not copped out like most people do and use it as a gimmick. The actual record is exactly how it's meant to be, with no trimmings and no luxuries. I'm very impressed. Hit pick of the week.
Yeah. Now, this fellow... searched you out, or you searched him out? Or?
Yeah, he searched us out in London. He'd heard, I guess, some of the records or something, and he turned up after about 3 weeks of trying to find us at the house. And he's really nice, very young, I think, but he's done an LP too. And it's just called 16, 33, 45, 78. And it's the middle label is just a lot of broken records. And again, it's all just instrumental. I don't like the LP as much because it's kind of too long, really, and it's much more Muzak-y. But the single, I think, is better because it's concise, and it's funny too.
It's kind of scary, also.
Yeah, well, in one small single, he's managed to do a lot of different things, and I think that's really good. I think the single is his best thing, definitely.
We were talking about some of the bands that you like that are currently making records and currently whether either innovating or just doing something interesting or something that sounds good. And give us your top 10 or
what, English and American and
what do you think? What's good?
I like James White and the Blacks, or James Chance and the Contortions, whichever name he wants to take. I like that first track on the second side of No New York because it's a good dance number. It's the only record I dance to at the moment, apart from Monty's.
Well, let me go find it.
Do you know the one I mean? I think it's called Contort Yourself. Yeah. And I like the guy who was in DNA.
Artonito?
No, not that one. Not the Peeny one. I don't remember his name. I never remember names. His record's called Dark Day.
From DNA, we have Iku Ili, which I'm mispronouncing, Robin Crutchfield.
That's the guy, Robin Crutchfield. I knew it had a C and a field on it. He's done a single called Dark Day, which is very pretty. And I like Egomaniac's Kiss, too, on that one.
What's the song you like to dance to?
Oh, Contort Yourself. It's the first one by James Chance, anyway. And I really love that one.
Tracks by Contortions are Dish It Out.
That's it, Dish It Out. Sorry, Dish It Out. Yes, Contort Yourself is the 12-inch single, isn't it, by James White and the Blacks? You're right. Dish It Out, yes, that's the one.
Gonna dance for us?
What?
Or at least make some motions?
Oh, I'll make a motion.
Okay, here we go.
It's good. Have you heard this, Monty? It's good. You'll like this. It reminds me of Monty.
Now, about R.L. Crutchfield.
Yeah. It's just pretty. I think it's nice that he could produce a pretty record.
That's Invisible Man, right?
Yeah. Well, both sides are very similar, actually. That's the trouble. I think he's getting into a formula too quick, but it's pretty nevertheless. I played it to the rest of TG, and I was surprised because they all actually liked it, and normally they usually hate anything that I recommend. I mean, we all have completely different record collections, and we don't...
That's something we should get into after we hear Invisible Man.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you were talking about the varying tastes among the four members of Throbbing Gristle. We have some idea of yours, I guess, or at least what's current.
Yeah. Well, like Chris really, really likes ABBA. I don't know, do people in America know about ABBA, the Swedish group?
Yeah.
Very, very, very pop.
He sneaked some ABBA into AG7.
He's written so many times to their fan club that he's now been made an honorary life member. And he wears ABBA T-shirts, and it's very embarrassing to have with us, really. He has an ABBA haircut and white polo neck sweaters, and ABBA soap, and posters of the...
ABBA soap?
Oh, yeah, you can
ABBA
get...
clogs.
Not clogs. Can you get the clogs?
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, he hasn't got clogs, no.
Do we have that poster anymore? We used to have a great ABBA poster with all these merchandising offers. You could get an ABBA jacket and ABBA clogs.
He probably knows about them because of the fan club letters and things. And he was really... When the blonde one, Agnetha or Aggie, decided to get divorced, he rushed round to the house and said, "I've got a chance. There's hope for me yet." And he was quite serious. It wasn't a joke. I mean, people think at first it's kind of a hip, cool put-on, and then they realise he genuinely likes them. And that's why his track on DOA is AB/7A. It was the nearest you could get to writing ABBA, because the stroke and the 7 make a little B. And on that track, there's actually 5 hit singles by ABBA playing simultaneously, and that's what makes that phasing noise in the background.
That means we're going to have to play it.
Because we couldn't, of course, put that on the cover notes because it's totally illegal, and I hope their agents aren't listening.
John Savage mentioned it in the review.
Did he mention
Melody
it?
Maker. Yeah.
He's not supposed to. Typical John Savage. That's the trouble of having people who know too much. Well, as long as we don't get sued. And I suppose Chris would enjoy it because he might meet them.
Well, shall we hear Chris's piece, more or less translated to ABBA?
ABBA, yes. It's ABBA. That's the real title.
And we're going to see if you can identify the singles. I'm going to try.
I know there's Waterloo on it.
Yeah?
And the name of the game, yes.
You might be amused to know that that is the hit from the record to date.
The hit?
Yes. In fact, this song is in our top 10.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, Chris will be pleased.
Yes.
I was just saying it shows he's got a sense of proportion in that he can still deliberately mangle the records so that the most pop-oriented track also mangles the most pop-oriented group and destroys them into noise. Anyway, it'd be good for... I mean, I still listen to the sort of phasing noise in the background, trying to figure out which record's which. He's not told us which the 5 records are.
I couldn't identify any of them, and I have definite tendencies to listen to ABBA when no one is around.
Yes, well... you wanted to know other things? I was just saying...
Some other taste opinions and stuff by the rest of the folks.
Well, Sleazy, which is our nickname for Peter Christopherson, Sleazy's favourite musician is John Barry, who does lots of film soundtracks, especially James Bond films.
How did he get the name Sleazy?
You haven't seen him.
All right.
When we first met him, he had this horrible droopy moustache and this satin shirt, and he was really sleazy, you know. And we didn't know his other name then, so that was Sleazy. You can tell how normal in his first appearance Chris is, in that he's never developed a nickname. But Sleazy, I was just also talking, we keep talking, everybody should understand that we talk a lot in between when the records are on, and we were just saying that the only thing that all 4 of us, agree on liking is Captain Beefheart. I don't know if that shows in our records, but it's an interesting fact. The only person we all put down when we made a list of likes was Captain Beefheart, and 3 of us also said Nico. And we all like the Doors too, early Doors, Jim Morrison, because we're kind of nostalgic in our own quiet way. Romantics at heart. Cozy also likes Vera Lynn. I know you won't have any of her records.
Vera Lynn, I've heard the name.
She's been made a dame by the Queen, Dame Vera Lynn, and she's the woman who sang Land of Hope and Glory. During the war, she made a lot of very patriotic records and used to cheer on the troops as they went to get machine gunned. But Cozy just...
How nice of her.
She was. Oh, she was very kind, yes. They used to go up to the front lines singing Land of Hope and Glory. But the records all have the massed choir of the Royal Air Force, Army and Navy singing along. It's very emotional. It really is emotional. What else do we like?
Who do you all universally despise?
Despise? Oh, the Beatles, the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, the Residents.
Aha, let's stop here and talk about the Residents. Why? Because they attempt to be heavy, or what?
I don't like the hype. I think it's unnecessary, and it's arrogant, and it's pretending not to play the game of the big record companies when in actually fact it's just another version of the record company game. I think they're too academic, and I think they're very, very old-fashioned too. Very old-fashioned.
Old-fashioned in what sense?
Well, what they're doing is snippets of Frank Zappa's early stuff and touches of classical avant-garde. Very 60s humour, really. And I know for a fact that they're very old. They've been around for... I remember getting letters off them in 1973 with a square flexi disc, which I threw into the bin. I wish I'd kept it, because I could have sold it now. Made a lot of money for a collector. And I hate those, apparently, Louisiana voices. I can't stand country and western music, and so even a joke version just drives me up the wall, I'm afraid. Some of the instrumental technique, on the right day, the instrumentals can be passable, you know.
Snakefinger and
oh, he's horrible. Have you ever met him?
No.
Oh, he's English, and he's such a prat. Oh.
A prat. I don't know the term.
A prat. It's a wimp combined... Oh, is it still on? Yeah, a wimp combined with an arrogant Kiss-type figure. You know, completely self-opinionated and convinced he's a genius and everyone else is stupid and doesn't deserve a smile. And it's all so mysterious and cool, man, and you don't deserve to know the answers. Oh, it's horrible. He came back to England recently, and everybody that ever met him agreed he was the most objectionable person they'd ever come across. So I can't be wrong. Really, avoid the Residents, burn their records, burn down the Cryptic Corporation, please, please. Kill them on the street. They're all middle-aged anyway. They don't deserve to keep going. If we can find out who they are, we're going to expose them.
Like Kiss.
Oh, Kiss, everyone knows who they are. They don't deserve exposing because they stick to what they do. They're all right, Kiss. There's a difference, you see. Kiss, I don't mind any group that does what it says it's setting out to do. And Kiss said it's a comic book thing and it's a hype and it's commercialism and it's heavy metal and the kids like it. and it's straightforward investment and returns. That's okay. I don't like it personally, but there's no real hypocrisy involved. The residence there is to me. They're very academic. There's never a surprise. It's much, much too cool. I like things where something happens that you don't expect, where it's uncouth and it can suddenly become vulgar or awkward.
But it seems to me that both Throbbing Gristle and The Residence elicit the same kind of response, in that you like it because it's either strange or it's different or it's amusing from the fact that you really can't understand it and you don't even bother to try. But it's just there, and it's just odd.
I hope not. I don't think so. The people that buy our records, I thought they all played them while they made a cup of tea, or put them on while they wrote letters to friends.
Some of us put them on the little insert that's in the second annual report about the evil English people with the girl and her boyfriend. I tried that.
Oh, yeah.
I actually found it enjoyable.
Yeah, sex. I mean, I know it's obviously true that there'll be a certain number of people who do buy it just to be able to say, hey man, I've got the weird record by that English group. And because of the distance, we probably seem a bit mysterious, just like the residents do in Europe. But we don't consciously generate that. The fact that people can come round to our house in England, schoolboys and people, and meet us, and we get 100 or 150 letters a week, and we do write back to everyone ourselves. And when we play live, we don't go in the dressing room. We always stay on the stage before and after, and people can come and talk to us as long as they want.
Those who haven't been blinded by the halogen light.
Those who haven't been blinded or gone home.
What I was saying, as far as the reaction is, sure, it's incorrect, but a lot of it is again, misunderstanding. You misunderstand The Residence as much as you misunderstand Throbbing Gristle, and that you get it or you listen to it because it's odd.
Well, I mean, the people I've met since I've been over here this time don't seem to think that way. They usually say it's nice to know they're not alone, and that we see the world the way they see it. That's basically the response I get from people I meet. And that's what I want. That's all we're doing. We're more like journalists than musicians. We don't want a rock and roll career or a music career. And we don't make records in order to see how many we can sell. We really don't. It's just a hobby that's got out of hand. That's all it is.
Professions.
Yeah.
Aside from Cozy, who we know about.
Who's a naughty girl,
yes.
Well, she's at least not as bad as she used to be, because she used to do porno movies. Sleazy, he works as a partner in Hypnosis, who do those very surreal photographic LP covers, like for UFO and Paul McCartney and Led Zeppelin. Pink Floyd, oh yes. Oh, and Peter Gabriel.
Is it true what I heard about the UFO cover? That is
the Fawcett one is me and Cozy in a bath, yes.
That was edited here so that you can't make it out.
That's true. I was in the book. It shows it. Is it the Hypnosis book or the album cover album? One of them. And in America they kind of painted over us so we were like little ghosts in the bath. Whereas in the English version you can see my bum.
Can you make the faces out so that people know who you are?
Not really, no. It was meant to be ambiguous. So I had a ponytail. I had long hair then, you see. And Cozy had a ponytail. And it was meant to look like it could be two blokes, or it could be two girls, or it could be a bloke and a girl. It was deliberately meant to be an ambiguous couple. But it's us. Definitely us. They built that bathroom, actually, in a derelict house. And it was taken in the winter, and it was sub-zero temperatures. I was just wearing a T-shirt and Cozy just a pair of white canvas trousers. And we were in that bath for about 4 hours. And it was really, really cold, and they kept taking these pictures and saying it wasn't right. And then suddenly they turned on the shower, and there was no hot water, of course, so this freezing water shot all over us, and they took the photo. And I was screaming, "You rotten, beep, 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 beep."
Thank you.
And, aren't I polite? And they said it was a great photo. That's the one, of course, in typical Hollywood style. And we got £30 for that, which is $60. But it paid the phone bill.
Good.
So now you know.
Now we've got two members of Throbbing Gristle, career pegged.
Oh yes. Well, I'm on the dole, which is welfare. I have been for 8 years.
You tell us how?
How I've been on it for that long?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I had a friend who was a professional burglar way up way back in Yorkshire when we lived in Yorkshire in the north of England. And he told me how to sign on and keep on for a long time, which I did. And then after a while they got very suspicious of me and said that they wanted to give me psychological tests and psychiatric tests, because anyone who was unemployed that long must be crazy or lazy, which is reasonable. And so it was either stop the money or go along with them and let them do the tests. So I did all these aptitude tests so they could tell me what job I ought to have.
And what did they come up with?
Well, it was the perfect answer, because at the end, is it still working? Yeah? At the end of it, they had lots and lots, 100 questions, and there was 3 alternative answers. And you had to put the pin through the square for the answer you wanted to give least and the one you wanted to give most. And they were really obvious the way they were trying to angle it. It would say, if you were working on the local amateur theatre play, would you rather sell tickets at the door, be the producer, or be the leading actor? So it was clear, were you retiring and shy? Did you have a lot of ambitions and extrovert tendencies, or did you like to be the one in control? I mean, it was so obvious what they were trying to find out. But I did it anyway and stuck pins through, and at the end, it's an American test, by the way. You invented it, so...
We have a lot of them over here for high school aptitude and stuff. Yeah.
It's not so common in England, so it was kind of interesting to do. And then they take away all the pages, and there's a pattern of holes on the back. And they look at the pattern and figure out what you meant to be. What's the matter? Am I too close?
A little bit.
Yeah? P...
Oh, ow!
Oh. Now I know what the clicks are. Thank you. Sorry, American. And... where we yes. No, well, they said at the end that the final result was that I was equally talented to either be everything or nothing. In other words, it didn't tell them anything at all. So then they decided I must be crazy and sent me to the local mental asylum to be tested by psychiatrists. And I knew that if they decided I was crazy, they could keep me in. But they gave me 6 months of money until I had to go there. And then the day I was meant to go, I went on the wrong day. And told them, I really didn't realise it was the wrong day. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, is it Thursday? I thought it was Wednesday. So they gave me looks as if to say, we knew he was crazy. But I went in and I did the tests, and I was amazed. It was this guy who was about 60 years old and white-haired, and he was the main doctor for the whole of the north of England. And at the end of it, he said, I really like the sound of your group. Can I have one of the posters?
How long ago was this?
This was in 1973. And I said, of course you can. He said, there's nothing wrong with you. You'd just get bored in any job you did, and within 2 weeks you'd start to cause trouble. And I said, that's what I told them at the beginning. And he said, well, I'll give them a letter saying you're not mad, but you're not suitable for employment. And so I was classed unemployable. And so now they just have to keep pensioning me off. Very nice.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
And the fourth of TG.
That's Chris Carter. Yeah, he drives a delivery van for a glass manufacturer. He just delivers sheets of glass part-time. And the rest of the time, he stays up till dawn every night building strange electronic gadgets. He's an obsessive worker. Totally obsessive. If he's not doing that, he's building something else or repairing the house.
Is he related to Roger Ruskin Spear?
No. Oh. But he did... I mean, he's totally self-taught in electronics, and ABC Television, which is your American company, their English office approached him for the Jubilee year, and he built them an entire radio studio from scratch for outside broadcasts and everything. And he'd never done that before, and just built it straight off, and they were so impressed that the New York office offered him a job as their worldwide studio engineer. Totally self-taught, and he turned them down. He said he was too busy with Throbbing Gristle, so they don't like him anymore. I guess he could always go and approach them, but they were upset. They did buy copies of all the records, though, to find out why he wanted to stay with us. That's it, really. I'm the one who's the laziest, obviously.
Question about the death threats. There must be a good story behind that one.
Well, yes, they are genuine for a start, because some people wonder. We used to have, it broke down recently, but we used to have an answer machine rigged up the whole time. And the first death threat is from one of the Clash roadies, Robin Banks. He's been sacked by the Clash now for being too violent. And his girlfriend, who was then Annette Weatherman, attacked the group at the gig where we didn't use the negative ion generator at the film co-op. She threw bottles. She beat up Robert Rentle's 4-year-old son. She hit a young schoolboy who was listening in the face, and her friend started pushing over the speakers and broke a bone in my foot, then started to pull all the wires out of the amplifiers, which would have blown the whole PA, and it wasn't insured. And I kept giving her very obvious signals that there was a point beyond which we wouldn't tolerate that behaviour. She was very drunk, and she began doing that immediately she came in. It wasn't like a response to the music or anything. And the gig, as it happened, was also a benefit we were doing for nothing to get money for the Film Co-op, who were the only distributors of underground films in London. So I just got up on the monitors and smashed her over the head with my bass guitar. And she went home and told her boyfriend, and he rang me up and threatened me. She's silly. And then the other one is Chris Carter's wife, who his divorce is going through at the moment, as you can imagine from the phone call if you've heard it. And
I think we owe it to our listeners to allow them to experience it themselves.
Yeah, well, she decided that the only possible reason he'd left home was because he'd met Cozy and Throbbing Gristle.
Or perhaps Agnetha.
Oh, well, no, I mean, that would have been more logical, actually. Yeah. But she finally she made the biggest mistake. She used to do crazy things. She used to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, smash a mirror and stab him in the stomach with the broken glass and say, "Why didn't you cook me a meal?" Or hit him over the head with a piece of 3x2 wood and never even explain why, or rip up all his books. She was totally insane. And
where is she now?
Well, she's apparently decided she wants to get married to a teddy boy. I don't know if you know what teddy boys are.
They're like people that hang on to the 50s, right?
Yeah, the Elvis Presley fans.
The greasers.
Yeah. And she was very bizarre altogether. But she finally said to him, "It's either me or your synthesizers. If you don't get rid of your synthesizers, I'm leaving you." And the next morning he'd gone. He'd walked out with all his synthesizers and moved in with us. That's it. Yeah, I just remembered all the tracks. I do know, although they've got no titles, they're all about television.
That one was, I guess, going to be titled Black and White?
I would imagine so, knowing the lack of imagination of most songwriters. Yeah.
I haven't started writing songs yet, but...
No, I mean, I should imagine. Why not? It's like a key phrase, obviously. There's another one later on about Video is Busted, but the whole first side of the album will be songs about television, and the second side is alternative soundtrack to television.
That is the soon-to-be-released Thomas Lear, Robert Rental combination project, right?
As soon as possible, yes.
We have a caller.
Good.
Caller?
Yeah. I was wondering, you were talking a little while ago about how easy you were to get hold of in England, but we don't have your address over here. I was wondering if you could give us your address.
Okay. You ready? You got a pencil? We give everybody 20 seconds to go and get a paper and pencil. We can repeat it later, apparently. So, it's right, I'll start. It's an English address, so I'll explain each line. I'll give you a line, and then I'll say new line, and you write underneath. It's 10 Martello Street. That's M for mother, ARTELLO. 10 Martello Street, New Line, London, E8, that's a capital E, that's the district, you see, E8, E for egg, England.
Not East?
Well, it is actually, it's East London, it's just near where Jack the Ripper used to kill people, and... No, really, it's just a few hundred yards from the Whitechapel Road where Jack the Ripper was operating.
You are a historian.
And also, the Cray brothers, who are a more recent form of gangsters, shot somebody dead in the Blind Beggar pub, which is also at the corner of Whitechapel Road and the road that we live off. And they both got put away for life. And they're kind of the most famous gangsters in England. I have a Cray Brothers T-shirt, actually, with Ronnie and Reggie smiling. And when Monty was with us, we actually planned to go and find the original locations of each murder. And Monty was going to be dressed as Jack the Ripper, and Cozy was going to be the various prostitute victims. But as ever, we got sidetracked. Still.
We are going to, I guess we were talking about R. Stevie Moore.
Oh, yes.
Well, I'll give you a bad reference. The residents love R. Stevie Moore.
Well, that's okay.
It's okay?
They like Tuxedo Moon and MX-80 and hamburgers, too.
Do you like them?
I like hamburgers.
Yes, if anyone, someone bring us some food. Looks like we're going to be here for a while.
How is that for a cue, hey?
That's great. This guy's a born disc jockey. If someone out there has some food.
Green spaghetti I ate yesterday. Oh, yeah. You have to eat it first. You're our poison taster.
I'll promise. Anyway, we should hear R. Stevie more. There's a new album out called Delicate Tension.
Oh, I heard that on the way here.
Yeah, you actually got us.
We got you on the Cadillac. We came in a Cadillac, you know. Oh, by the way, before we go any further, we've got to say thanks
to Jim Jacoy.
Thank you very much to Jim Jacoy, who brought us here. And without him, we couldn't have got here because we had to get the Bart, which is highly inflammable material. You've heard about the Bart burning in 10 minutes?
Oh.
Yes?
No, I don't watch TV, so I don't know.
Yeah, they tested it. Monty knows all about that. It's a terrible thing.
On the floor, ceiling, the whole car.
Just
10 minutes.
And it's burned to a cinder.
Extra crispy.
It's crisp and dry.
Sanders.
Extra crispy. I think Colonel Sanders is closed, but if anyone has some cold extra crispy, we sure could get off on it. That's a great term, huh? We'll hear R. Stevie Moore, and this is a song called Cool Daddy-O.
Hello, teenage America.
Or middle-age America.
There must be some...
Do you know where your children are?
Yes.
Teenage America.
What are your children doing at this time of night? Naughties.
You used to ever watch Dragnet?
Yes.
Yeah?
Dragnet, yes, we used to get that in England.
They used to ask what your children were doing at night.
Oh, yes, they did.
Down on the strip.
Watching Jack Webb.
They were joining Scientology.
Genesis, I think we have another caller.
No.
I think they hung up.
Hello?
Oh, let's try the other phone. Hello, caller.
Caller, can you hear us? Can we hear
You're
you?
not dialing them.
We can hear you now.
We can hear you. Come on.
Hello?
Hello?
Turn your
Can
radio.
you hear me?
Yes?
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I have a couple of questions.
Good.
First of all, what was the meaning behind the second song after Hamburger Lady? Do you know, like, what, on the third album, which, what were they trying to do? What were they trying to prove by the song? Or were they trying to relay any message to the public, or what?
Which one is it?
It's got,
Home Time.
kids in the background.
Oh, yes.
Talking in the background.
That's Cozy's solo track, Home Time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, Cozy's, as you probably already know, is the lead guitarist, and she's the girl in the group. And the little girl talking is her niece, her sister's little girl, called Debbie.
Uh-huh.
And, Cozy's always had a thing. In English schools, I don't know if you have it here, but when you finish school, you used to say, oh, it's nearly home time. And you go home at 4 o'clock.
Right.
And she still has a very, very strong nostalgia for when she was at school, when she was a young girl. And so she wanted to do a track for a long time that was called Home Time. And she also, her parents, because of her work with us, have disowned her, her mother and father. They won't talk to her, they won't accept her phone calls or anything. So she also has a very strong feeling of being rejected by her parents, but her sister still talks to her and likes her. And so she's always trying to get back to her family psychologically. And she also always remembers being happiest when she was a young girl. And so the track is her personal vision of being a child and an innocent, really. And the little girl, she wore headphone microphones for a whole day. She drove down to visit her sister and recorded on and off for the whole day, so the little girl didn't know it was being recorded, and then she had 2 hours of tape. She picked out phrases that seemed the most like a little girl. It's just a very, very romantic and sad in a way. But also, it's actually, funnily enough, it's my favourite track on the record.
What's that?
Why? I think it's the most pure and the most haunting. But that's just personal. I guess because I know how sad it is.
Okay, wait, I have a second question to ask there.
That's okay. Go on.
Okay, my second question is who discovered or who created your music in general? Like, who created the style of your music? And do you have any the underlying, I don't know, what meanings, behind what you're creating or what you're playing, what you're recording.
That's too. Yeah, well, I think just on the other question, you should understand that I'm trying to answer on behalf of Cozy, and obviously she could answer better. That's just by way. Yeah, well, the sound, the overall sound, I think is possible because of Chris Carter, because Cozy and I worked together for 8 years on different projects and always wanted to do a more specifically musical thing. But we never knew how to make the noises that we could hear in our heads, the whole story, until we bumped into Chris at a party, and he told us about, he was then doing solo electronic synthesizer things, more like Tangerine Dream, the German group. And he knew how to make the things that could give the noises we wanted. And then Sleazy was a kind of peripheral person. He was hanging around with us, but not particularly active. And he originally did mixing and then started adding in tapes. And so it grew very much as a result of the 4 people combined, which is why we did the solo tracks on the album. Because we thought that made it clear that individually the sound would not be quite the same. I think the nearest person to the TG sound on the solo tracks is actually Sleazy, with his tapes. But what we like is the fact that it only works when there's the 4 of us. As for underlying meanings, well, I know it's, again, it's a very obvious thing to say, but the only permanent theme we have is that we want people to learn or to have the courage to think for themselves and make their own decisions, and to not be afraid of anything that's happening, but never accept it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Good.
Got any food?
Pardon me?
Got any food?
Do I have any food?
Bob seems to have a grumbly tummy.
Yeah.
Wait. There's too many people talking. I can't hear what you're saying.
Oh, you at a party or something?
Pardon me?
Are you at a party?
Am I in a party?
Yeah.
Just a couple of people.
Yeah.
Do they have any food?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we do have some food. What would you like?
Bring it up.
Bring it up.
No, don't bring it up. That in English that means puke.
Well, then deliver it.
Yes.
Be very careful. Slang does not always transfer across the ocean.
Put it in your lorry and bring it up.
Okay, hold on a second, because a friend of mine has a question to ask you, okay?
Yeah, fine. We're here to be your servants.
I'd hate what?
We're here to be your servants.
Oh, we're here to be your servants. Okay, here you go.
Hello?
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 How did you come up with the name Throbbing Gristle?
Yay.
Yes, well...
The question.
Is it? Oh. Well, in England, Cozy and Sleazy and I are from Yorkshire, which is the north of England. And in actual fact, the town we were located in was Hull, which is a dock town, a port, a bit like San Francisco, I guess. And there's a lot of... In England, there's a great deal of slang in different areas, you know? And we used to live in the oldest street in Hull, in a derelict house with the roof caving in, and right up the street was the Dockers Club, and they used to have a very, very colourful vocabulary, and the prostitutes used to be opposite. There used to be a little car park, and they used to go there for what do you call them, knee tremblers?
Knee tremblers?
A stand-up fuck.
What that is?
Beep. Beep. Too late. Sexual intercourse in a vertical position.
There we go.
That's the way.
Much better.
That's better, right. And it was £2, which is $4. They weren't very unromantic situation.
Low quality.
Anyway, we were there one day watching out of the window with the lights off, as was our wont. And this guy said, "How'd you like to have 7 inches of throbbing gristle?"
So that's the story.
I hear the giggles. They understand. So it's Yorkshire slang for an immediately prior to orgasmic penis. But also the throbbing relates to rhythm, not coitus interruptus. And gristle is kind of the tough but not rigid part of the human body. So it seemed kind of appropriate. We like the idea of having an uncouth and loutish and unintellectual, ex-intellectual name for a group that everybody kept trying to write off as just people with theories. We like to stay silly. I like it when people try and write a very, very intellectual account of what we're doing and they keep using the phrase throbbing gristle. You know, oh yes, and the existential socialist implications of this throbbing gristle. Does that help? I mean, we could have done a good advert, you know, sort of, do you want to get 12 inches of black throbbing gristle? Go out. She's having, you sound all right. Come and bring food.
Also, like, when will you guys be playing around this area, if at all?
Well, I came over this time first on my own for convalescence. And then in September, the other three are coming back with me, and it's kind of a more intense checking out. And we hope to do something. It may not be what you expect, but we hope to do something early next year. We don't want to go to a rock and roll venue, and we don't want to do it. You see, in England, we avoid rock and roll clubs, and we turn down gigs unless the people seem to really want us. In the true sense, I don't mean want us because they want to be able to say we've played, but they are interested.
You want to do it here?
Well, we want to do it, but like Sleazy said, there's no reason why just because it's abroad we should make it less stringent, the criteria.
So you're not going to make it on Soul Train?
On what?
Nothing.
What did she say? Oh, Soul Train. Oh, that's your Top of the Pops, isn't it?
Not quite.
I've seen that. They show clips of that on our TV program, Top of the Pops. Disco.
I wish they showed Top of the Pops.
I've seen it, yeah. And they have all the black people doing those really cool dances and things. Yeah, I know the one. And they have boogie nights and that Taste of Honey group. What do they do? What's that?
Boogie, oogie, oogie.
Boogie, oogie, oogie. Yes, I know the program. No, I doubt it. But I think something will occur in the next 6 months. We definitely want to come here and do something, but we want to do it so that we feel happy that it's a real example of what we do. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, the thing is, we just want you to know that personally I enjoy your music, and you do have supporters out there.
Good. Well, that's
so if you come, you know, you'll have an audience.
Well, that's good, because that's the first thing we wanted to check. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then, I know what you mean.
And
so
then
come.
we don't want...
You're listening to people who call up and appreciate your music and who can understand your music, so why don't you come and play?
Well, the first reconnoitre is over, and the word is go. So I bring the rest over and they check out whether... I mean, they're very paranoid, some of them. They want to be sure that it's a good situation from your point. We don't want to come over and then balls it up for you. Do you know what I mean? Now, if we do come, we want to feel that even if it fails, it was the best we could do. And then if you don't like it, well, that's fine. But we'd hate to say, well, it could have been better if. So we want to be quite sure that we do a good job.
Caller.
Well, don't be afraid of failure in any means of the way. Like if people don't understand your music, then they just don't understand.
Well, as long as we do it with full control from our point of view, then it can't fail. It can be not liked, but it can't fail. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to do. We wanted to make sure.
Okay. Well,
we're not frightened of not
supporters.
I mean, if we were frightened of not being liked, we'd never have done a record.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for ringing.
Okay.
You can ask more if you want. I like it.
But then you also have the obligation of bringing us food.
Bringing food.
Oh, yes.
Okay. We'll bring it burritos and everything else from Jack in the Box.
We love it.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you soon.
Yep.
You have a cordial invitation to play here at the college. If you
I can just see the posters now. The ASFC and KFJC presents Throbbing Gristle.
I think when it happens, it will probably be quite complex. I think there may well be a few people doing various things.
Bring Robert Rental and Thomas Weir with you.
Less likely, because they're busy with that. They're not really into it, I don't think, yet. Maybe another time. But I think we might have a few things by Mark Pauline with his machines that eat up strange animals and spew them out. And Monty only plays 3 minutes anyway. He only ever does the A side of his current single. So he may well be playing live.
You say, was it either Thomas Weir or Robert Rental was a small person?
Thomas Leary's tiny.
You could fit him in one of your trunks.
Yes.
And just smuggle him over, and no one would ever know.
He's like a tiny Scottish weasel. He's really nice.
Does he play golf?
Golf in England?
No, in Scotland.
Nowhere. Oh no, not golf. What does he do all day? Basically, all of us watch TV. We sleep in the daytime and watch television till it goes off. In England, there's only 3 channels, and they all finish at midnight, so it's kind of...
Here you can watch Ronnie Richards on Movies Till Dawn. And
I know, the late movies here are good. I like that. We should copy that.
It's the highlight of the day, really, as far as TV goes. All those movies are great.
Did anybody watch The Projected Man the other day? That's a good film.
Was that on during... If it was on during prime time, I didn't see it.
I don't remember when it was
on Saturday during, like, monster movie time.
Creepy Crawlies.
Yeah, it was
Creature Features.
I was watching that. Was that sort
English.
of 50s?
Yeah.
Oh, no, an English movie?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Good.
We tape recorded some of the noises of the lasers charging up. Music.
Yes, I noticed that you must sleep in the daytime. I've tried to call you at 2 a.m. our time, which is 10 o'clock in the morning, and it never goes through.
Yes. We leave the phone off the hook, I'm afraid. Well, you see, if you're up till dawn, you don't want to suddenly get woken up 3 hours later. So, but we are working. We're getting a new answer machine. The last one finally disintegrated. So when we get that, you can at least leave messages and things.
Good.
We're working on it, slow but sure.
Well, shall we get around to Candyman?
Yes. I wanted you to play the other side of Monty's single.
Is it the same song that John Hurt did 70 years ago?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, it's not. It's not exactly a song. It's more of a TV documentary.
This is Monty Kazaza. B-side or A-side? B-side?
B-side.
B-side of the new single. It's called Candyman on KFJC.
Now we're getting into American politics.
Oh. I heard the funniest thing the other day. What a San Francisco policeman, his comment about the mayor of San Francisco. Am I allowed to say what? Can I repeat what he said? It's not a dirty word.
No, I think as long as we made it this far, we haven't lost our license.
He called Dianne Feinstein a dyke, and it was...
Who said this?
San Francisco policeman. He covered up his badge, so I couldn't remember it, but I thought it was quite funny at the time.
You saw somebody do this, or it was on TV?
Just as I had come out of the Damned concert, they always have policemen by the stairs to control the crowd, who was not unruly at all. Just the band was. And the policeman, we were making jokes with him about Charles Gaine, and we mentioned Dianne Feinstein, how she'd been closing down the Deaf Club, and he goes, she's a dyke.
A lesbian.
Well, or something similar. But
something that holds back water.
It's the old story. Use a quick word and dismiss somebody, isn't it?
A girl, more like a girl who's into being... taking a man's role or something like that.
I think she's doing a good job myself.
Not with the music scene. She's not. She's apparently been closing down loud punk clubs.
Really?
Which is kind of annoying.
The Deaf Club is great.
Was it?
Yes. All deaf people run it. It's great.
Really?
Yeah, they can't hear anything. It's bad.
They supposedly just get off on the vibes.
Talking of which, we must give a plug to Target Video and Joe Reese, because we saw a video he did of the cramps at the State Mental Hospital. And
I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's great. Really good. I mean, he was showing us all these new groups and things, and it was pretty boring, and then suddenly this thing came on, and it really was wonderful.
Have you heard the Cramps?
Well, yes, I've got
Aside from that?
The Human Fly record, I've got the original pressing, and they've been touring England recently, getting very, very good reviews. They're good.
They recently were produced by Chris Spedding of Yet 2.
I haven't heard his stuff with them, but I like the whole thing because there's no bass guitar, and again, it's somebody who's in their own world and project their own world and nothing else, and that's the thing, really. I like them. They do it very, very well. And they say nothing. I mean, they are entertainment, but in the true sense. But the mental home thing is so good because it suits them so well, and there's these crazy women grabbing the microphone and screaming, but they're really in time with the music. And then there's autistics doing this autistic disco to the music too. It's really good. It should be. I'm surprised they didn't show it on the TV. They showed some Target video the other night, and it wasn't on, and I was really surprised. They had that horrible, disgusting group Crime on instead, copying them.
Oh, if my roommate was to hear that.
He probably has. But, I mean, they were, copying crime. I mean, the only audience they can get is one that's locked in.
Locked in San Quentin,
So, what have we got up next?
You've run out of... You've crossed off questions and not asked them.
I haven't crossed off. Our departed food gatherer has crossed these off. If you want to read, would you like me to ask one of these questions he's written down?
Really.
Are Hit by a Rock and Blood on the Floor intended as parodies of punk rock, as John Savage suggested in Melody Maker's review of DOA?
Yes.
That's great. Okay. Would you like me to ask another one of these questions?
Blood on the Floor was inspired by watching a 5-ton truck, driving over somebody in the main shopping street in Hackney, where we live, in East London, nearly severing him in half, and then he lay there twitching, and suddenly a great pool of blood shot out of his mouth onto the floor. And Cozy and I ran into a shop to get a phone and call an ambulance, and everybody else, your respectable old-age pensioners and middle-aged shoppers, all just hung over the railings watching him die. And we were the only people who tried to do anything to help him. And yet we're the ones who are called decadent.
And Hit by a Rock is there?
Well, that was originally called Hit by Rock, but I added the A because I don't like to be too obvious. And it's kind of, wake up and have your cornflakes and have the tranny next to your ear, and the transistor's like a brick. It's silly stuff. Hit by a... I like the line, I am very proud, it's one of my favourite lyrics. Hit by a rock, spoiling my breakfast, blood and brains in my marmalade.
It'd be lovely if we could write that down sometime, because it is sort of hard to... something's lost in the translation.
Well, the lyrics of all the songs are in the next industrial newsletter, so you'll finally find out what on earth that guy is babbling about.
And those listeners who hear us play those tracks and want to call up during the show in which they're played, we'll be happy to read them to you if we have the time.
In fact,
the air sometime.
Funnily enough, those two tracks were recorded by Monty when he was in England. He did the recordings for those, and they're binaural. Which is like...
Your name appears, does it appear on DOA?
Yeah, special thanks. It was good fun. It was actually recorded in this youth club for children, well, young kids, say 14, 12, 16, who, rather than be sent to a prude school, or what do you call them, borstals? What do you call them?
Which schools?
It's not prison, it's because they're too young to go to prison.
Either juvenile hall or reform school.
Reform school. Yeah, it was a special place where instead of going to reform school, they had to help rebuild this old factory, and we played there for them instead, and Monty recorded it all. It was a benefit, free, whatever you want to call it. It was nice. They really enjoyed it. They were really good. They didn't understand, in the normal sense, they didn't understand what was happening, but they were just happy because it was crazy, and that's enough for us.
We're
Meanwhile,
running out of things to say.
Call in.
Ask us some questions. We're running dry at the mouth. The number is 948-8819, and you can call up and talk to Genesis P-Orridge and Monty Kazaza. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, that's correct.
We've run out. Oh, you could play the 5-knuckle shuffle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's
the record.
When I explain a little bit about it, it's based on experiences by 2 or 3 friends who were in mental homes. And the people who were given Largactil, which is a tranquilizing medicine, used to be nicknamed the Bronze Men because when they go out in the sun, they go kind of a golden yellow. And they usually get given Salvation Army clothes, which are too short, and they used to come through a bit like the people who were blinded in the First World War with their hands on each other's shoulders, and they'd trundle through. And then there was a guy who used to knock 3 times, only 3 times on any piece of wood.
That's metal, I'm sorry.
It'll do.
Knock on my head. There's it.
And so it's a kind of obsessive rhythm with insane but obsessive vocals. And also it reminds me of Monty Kazaza too. In fact, as he inspired the term autistic disco, I used to sometimes introduce it if we ever did it live and say, welcome to the autistic disco. So,
shall we hear 5-knuckle shuffle?
By all means, which is Yorkshire slang for masturbation. All you young men know what I need. Welcome to the autistic disco.
On KFJC.
Where else?
Los Altos Hills. It's a new dance craze.
It's very good to dance to.
That's the 5-Knuckle Shuffle, new single from Throbbing Gristle.
And although probably the French single, which that is very hard to get, a new, different version of it will be available on a TGLP, because we don't like to cheat people. You see what I mean?
Sounds good. We have another caller.
Good.
Great.
Hello.
Second caller.
Yeah.
Talk.
Yes, before you were talking about how before, I don't know, when you were a band, or before you were a band, what you performed, let's say, lewd acts or something on stage.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could talk more about that.
Of course.
No dirty words, guys.
How did you get involved in that with a friend?
Well, I used to, it was with Cozy mainly, me and Cozy, that used to do things. Let's see, for example, in Los Angeles in 1976, at the Institute of Contemporary Arts, Cozy and I did a performance where I was naked. I drank a bottle of whiskey, and then I was stood on a lot of tacks, you know, tin tacks.
Yeah.
And then I gave myself enemas of blood, milk, and urine, and then broke wind, to avoid using rude words, so that a jet of blood, milk, and urine combined shot across the floor in front of Chris Burden and assorted visual artists. I then licked it off the floor, which was a not clean concrete floor, and then I got a 10-inch nail and tried to swallow it, which made me vomit. And then I licked the vomit off the floor, and Cozy helped me lick the vomit off the floor. And she was naked and trying to sever her vagina to her navel. And she couldn't, well, she cut it from her vagina to her navel with a razor blade, and she injected blood into her vagina, which then trickled out. And we then sucked the blood from her vagina into a syringe and injected it into eggs painted black, which we then tried to eat. And we then vomited again, which we used for enemas. And then I needed to urinate, so I urinated into a large glass bottle and drank it all while it was still warm.
Never mind the food.
So it was all improvised?
Yes, this was improvised. You know, just the usual sort of thing that occurs. A jam session.
The man is qualified for Hell's Angels initiation.
Oh, yes. Yes. And then we gradually crawled to each other, licking the floor clean, because we don't like to leave a mess, you know. I mean, after all, it's not fair to insult an art gallery. Chris Burden, who's known for being outrageous, walked out with his girlfriend saying, "This is not art, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. These people are sick." And who was the other one? A conceptual artist, what was his name? Oh, I don't know. He did things like pictures of seabirds flying across the horizon with Marxist quotes underneath.
Sounds like John Hartfield, sort of, except he did the Nazi.
I remember.
Anti-Nazi
yeah, he was
propaganda.
okay. John Hartfield was nice. Well, that's one example. That's an American example. Low-key stuff, you know. In Amsterdam, we did a thing in the red light district. And it was like the people in the theatre in the red light district said, "What kind of lighting do you want?" So we said, "Oh, just put on all the red lights." And then we played tapes of Charles Manson's LP Lie, cut up with pictures, with soundtracks of trains going through thunderstorms. And we went through all different kinds of fetishes. Sleazy cut his throat and then had to kind of do a tourniquet on his throat. And Cozy and I did this thing of spitting at each other and then licking all the spit off, and then licking each other's genitals, and then having sexual intercourse while our hair was set on fire with candles. And there was an audience of around 2,000 people. And each day it got heavier, so that on Easter Sunday I was crucified on a wooden cross, whipped with 2 bull whips, covered in human vomit and chicken wings and chicken legs, and I had to hold burning torches, and people in the audience could hear the skin burning on my hands, and then I urinated down Cosey's legs while she stuck a lighted candle up her vagina, so there was flames coming out of her vagina. Things like that, you know. Just the ordinary everyday way of avoiding the commercials on the television. Does that help?
Yeah.
It's a cure for boredom.
Have you had an orgasm yet, though? This is the question.
You'll find this is at points more exciting than listening to Foreigner records.
Anything else? You know, that's the kind of thing, you know, I used to do things like stick severed chicken heads over my penis and then try and masturbate them whilst pouring maggots all over it, you know. That's, you know, now you understand why the British Parliament actually had a debate about us, and we were banned from Australia and Canada by the Foreign Office.
Mr. Gibson, this is the FCC calling. I'd like to talk with you a moment.
Caller, did that answer your question?
Yeah. You said that you coincide a lot with the punk movement or whatever.
Yes.
I was wondering how the majority of the people that, like, for instance, would go to one of your concerts or such shows, whatever, how they react to it. Like, you know, people dance. You know, it's obviously not the same as their other venues that they go to see their bands.
Yeah. Well, we did, you know, Generation X?
Yeah.
Right. We gave them their first gig, in fact, in London, when we did our show Prostitution at a gallery near Buckingham Palace, about 100 yards from Buckingham Palace in the Mall, which was owned by the Queen, and which was the one which caused us to be attacked by members of Parliament as the wreckers of civilization. We also got Generation X to play because we saw them as the ultimate prostitutes of rock music at the time. And we insisted they were called LSD because they hated hippies. And we played with them, and they said they were terrified of us, and they'd been told we were going to hang ourselves while we played. And the bass guitarist, Tony James, insulted Sleazy, so I knocked his front teeth out. I thumped him in the face. But we do get people who are what you might call punk rockers come to our gigs, and they say this is what it was supposed to be about, because we don't play normal music, we can't play technical music, and our actual attitude is more aggressive and more straightforward than the one that is actually projected by so-called punk groups now, although at the beginning they were okay. For instance, Sleazy took the original publicity photos of the Sex Pistols for Malcolm McLaren, and those photographs were rejected because Malcolm McLaren said they were too heavy. It was Johnny Rotten in a straitjacket in the YMCA toilets, things like that. The photos? Well, Sleazy didn't want... I mean, actually, I said to him he should have sold them to the daily newspapers at the height of the kind of outrage thing, because he could have made a lot of money, but he said he wasn't interested. And then Melody Maker recently tried to buy them off us for an article they were doing on Malcolm McLaren. But Sleazy just never got around to doing the prints. I think one day they'll appear somewhere. It's not deliberate, it's just we've got them in our filing cabinet, and one day we'll show them, you know. They're very nice pictures. He took them because he thought they were pretty. He put kind of bruises on their faces and things. And he came home, I remember him coming home on the Saturday and saying, I've met this new group, they're only young, but I think they'll do quite well. And we didn't realise at that point, you know, what was going to happen. We said, who are they? He said, oh, they call the Sex Pistols. And I said it was a good name. And then they, in fact, were on the TV programme, the famous TV programme where they swore and all the newspapers went crazy. We were on the week before because of our show Prostitution. So it was kind of really, really, you know, parallel. And the outrage they got was very parallel to ours. We got editorials in the daily newspapers and all that. The same thing, you know, it was interesting. They're okay. We don't mind them. Malcolm McLaren is doing... Somebody's knocking the table, that's why you're getting that funny noise. Malcolm McLaren, I admire a lot. And what he's doing is a kind of more public version of the same thing we're doing, I think. I like the Sex Pistols, the original ones. Not now, but
not
the original.
Sid, but
Sid was good. He was completely stupid.
I had a dream last night about Sid and Nancy Spungen, Sid Vicious and Nancy Spungen, that I was running around my parents' house with Sid and Nancy, and I was chasing Sid, and I caught up with him and cut his stomach out with a knife, and then he just shoved it back in and said, ha, 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 ha. And then my mother said, you can be careful while you're doing that. I don't want to mess on my carpet. And then Nancy had this weird hooked nose.
That sounds like Sister Ray, you know. You shouldn't do that. Don't you know you'll stain the carpet? Monty met Sid Vicious. Monty and I were together when we met Sid Vicious in London, in fact, near the Portobello Hotel.
Yeah, he was framed.
He was framed, yeah.
The New York police think that actually some black guys broke in and killed her because she owed the money for heroin, and then like Sid was killed, so why do any more work? You know,
right?
You know, so.
He was a silly. But I read an interesting. Malcolm McLaren was saying in this Melody Maker thing that he was very pleased because Johnny Rotten had split to Public Image. But now, people, when they think of the Sex Pistols, remember them... don't forget the table. People remember them as Sid Vicious, not Johnny Rotten, which is true. I hadn't thought of it till then, but it's true. They think of the Sex Pistols and they think much more of Sid Vicious now than they do of Johnny Rotten. That's a strange end to a question that was kind of something else. What was the question? Are you still there, caller?
Still there? You have another question?
Caller?
Yeah.
You still there?
Yeah.
Got a question? We got food.
The food came.
The food came. All right. Eats. Redneck eats.
Any more questions before you go, or stay?
No, I guess that covers it.
Okay.
So, the address one more time.
That's Bob Gibson eating.
Hamburger.
Great.
You will now hear Genesis P-Orridge eat a jumbo jack.
No.
All right. You win. Thank you, caller. Good night.
Bye-bye. Ew.
Boy.
This looks disgusting.
That's really awful.
I'm in America, okay. A McDonald's. Must be.
Jack.
Oh, we're back, at least in theory.
Yeah, I'll play some more, but let's gab a bit.
Okay. Gabby. Gabba Gabba Hey. I know all those punk references, you know. Go on.
For when you go slumming.
Yeah.
Right? That seemed to be real similar to... Have you heard Two-Way Army?
Yes.
What do you think?
I think the single, which is Our Friends Electric, is a good commercial pop song. I think the LP is disappointing.
Yeah?
Yes.
Well. Oh, well.
How about the pop group?
The pop group? I'd rather not talk about the pop group. Upstart.
How about Per Ubu?
Oh, yes, I like Per Ubu.
Red Crayola and that stuff?
Not Red Crayola now. Mayo Thompson now has gone into all this pseudo-socialist crap.
Because the Red Crayola album has Per Ubu backing up.
I know, well, everyone makes mistakes. They didn't know how it was going to turn out.
Yeah.
But David Thomas and Per Ubu are very nice people and have encouraged us and helped us. And whenever they come to London, they always make a point of ringing up and saying hello and getting in touch, and I appreciate that. And I like the Modern Dance LP, and I like the early singles. I was disappointed in Dub Housing, but Cozy, she does striptease to that one Heaven that's on the Data Panic EP.
I like Calgary's Mirror. Should we play Calgary's Mirror, or should we play more...
I don't mind, yeah, I like them. I think they should be something. Play what you like, because I like Per Ubu. They deserve...
Don't get me started, I'll never stop.
Well, good. Hello, Bob.
Hello, Genesis.
The universal control process continues here.
Yes, we're going to play a little bit of Per Ubu.
Goody.
By request. And we're going to have to start with Calgary's Mirror. I'm sorry, Bobby.
That's okay.
Hello, David. He's just got married to an English girl from Yorkshire.
God bless the boy.
Which is where we're from. So he's got good taste.
This is KFJC. Feels like heaven. That's Per Ubu.
Always reminds me of G-strings dropping.
That's the one that Cozy strips to, right?
Yeah. When Per Ubu came over last time to play a tour of England, I took David Thomas and Tony and Scott, the bass guitarist and drummer, to see her doing a striptease to that record at a club called the Wellington Pub in Shepherd's Bush. And the drummer and bass guitarist really enjoyed it. But David Thomas was really depressed because he'd always seen it as a romantic religious song. And when he saw her dancing to it, it suddenly became very physical. So there, that's all.
Any stories to Calgary's Mirror?
No, except that I told him that the record was made too quickly.
The whole record, or just that?
The whole LP, and it turned out it was true. They were told by Chrysalis that because they'd been signed, they had to produce an album as soon as possible to justify the investment.
That's European Chrysalis, right?
Yeah, European Chrysalis.
Yeah, because they got signed over here 6 months after the album was already out.
That's right, because it was on import only for ages here, wasn't it?
Yeah, for a real long time.
Yeah, and they were saying that, they were a bit depressed about it, but they were also justifying it in terms of, well, we've got to have a product out, man, and we got to pay off the cost of the tour and the support groups. And suddenly they were coming out with all this old-fashioned stuff about how to justify compromise. And I must admit, I was a bit worried about the way they were thinking about what they did. And they were using tuning forks to tune the guitars before they went on, and things like that. And I thought, danger signals, that's all, just danger signals. We'll have to see what happens next.
New album, in fact, coming in August.
Is there?
Yeah, they'll go on tour, apparently. They've already got booked at the Whiskey down south in L.A.
Well,
for sometime in August.
We'll see. I mean, I like them a lot, and I think they've got a lot of good ideas, but I think they're in danger from the pressure of finance. I think if anyone can survive it, they can, but I don't know yet. Just see. I like them anyway. They're nice people. It's always more important. I like records by people that I like. I know it makes it. Well, not necessarily, because it means that it can be a crummy record, but because you like the people, you understand why it's the way it is. You can tell it's 2:30p. Obviously, a deep philosophical conversation going on here. I think we should switch the subject quick.
You were talking a little earlier about followings in different parts of the world. That Throbbing Gristle seems to have, with very little publicity, gained in places where there's actually, I assume, very little rock, or there would seem to be very little rock sensibility.
Yeah, we've had letters from Czechoslovakia and Poland and Norway, everywhere except South America. I'm very disappointed about the South America thing, but the next LP is going to have a bossa nova on, so maybe we can cross that bridge then. I'm working on that at the moment. And it's nice to know that without any real explanation, people in so many places can feel that there's some kind of empathy in a real sense. I think maybe it's the end of the program, I don't know.
We have a caller.
A crossover product.
You want to talk to a caller?
Yes.
Okay, let me play with the buttons here. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello there.
Hello there.
There's an old folk story that I've heard many times to the effect that some college students once pulled a prank with some low-frequency sound.
Yeah?
They played a 12-cycle note to a bunch of people attending a football game and made them all soil their breeches.
Yes.
You've heard of these?
I've heard of the effect.
There's also some darker stories that you don't hear quite as often to the effect that somewhat lower frequencies and somewhat louder intensities can kill.
That's right, yes.
You've heard these stories that low frequencies...
Oh, it's true. It's not just a story.
Oh, that it can be deadly over?
Oh, yes, definitely. You can read it in some Burroughs books, yeah. It was done in France originally, but they've tried it everywhere. The problem with that is that to get the speakers to do it efficiently at those frequencies, you need to have them embedded in great big concrete blocks. But a more common form of it is Sensurround. If you go to those films like Earthquake and that, and it is in fact very dangerous, and if people are... Was that Sensurround? Yeah. If people are susceptible to heart attacks, they can in fact
own style.
They can in fact be killed by Sensurround. It's very... I never go to any films with Sensurround because it's too dangerous.
Well, most of them have been tacked on to such rotten films. You've made the right choice anyway.
Yeah, well, I don't know because I didn't go, but instinct told me it's not worth messing around with those. That's why we don't use low frequencies. Partly technical problems, partly it's unfair to jeopardize people's lives.
From what you were saying, it sounded like your earlier descriptions of concerts, that might be the kind of thing you'd want to do to people.
We've done low frequencies as far as we could get them on ourselves, but we only use high frequencies in concerts because they're not so dangerous. They have a physical effect, but not one that is potentially a killer.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to know you have the help of the audience.
Oh, of course.
Make sure and check the size on your woofers as soon as you get off the phone.
The size of mine is 6 inches in response to your earlier question. Thank you very much.
Good night, caller.
The last comment was from a young intruder called
yeah.
TAD, T-A-D,
Guilty.
which is a low-calorie drink.
Sort of. Exceptionally low calories, but fits this time of the night.
We've decided to finish at 3 o'clock, by the way, anyone who's still listening.
Are we going to get on to pets? Do we have 5 minutes for pets here? Or should we pick something a little more
Go ahead.
erudite?
Whatever.
Well, we had a pet story over here. We really did. Didn't you have a pet story for us?
Yeah, I have a little snake lizard called Sid Vicious, because if you stick he's not really a pet, he's in captivity actually. That's like a more realistic evaluation of the situation. But if you stick your hand in the cage, he'll bite you. He's aptly named. He doesn't like people to touch him, and I don't blame him.
We spend an hour a day finding potato bugs
and stuff for him to eat.
Jerusalem crickets.
That's like the rental on staying at Monty's house, is you have to dig up rocks for an hour a day to try and find food for the lizard.
Oh, for the lizard.
Yeah.
Not just to collect and keep around to show your friends and people.
And we couldn't find any bugs at the Oakland Institute of Contemporary Arts and Crafts or whatever it's called.
We didn't have it.
Spent ages there today.
None
Nothing.
whatsoever.
Dead leaves, yes. Stagnant pools, yes.
They probably use Holiday
Colour
Fog.
Xerox courses
They probably
even.
use Holiday Fog or
Holiday.
Yes, Holiday
They may just bring the bugs through on small tours, and then just farm them right back out again, so they don't, bring down the quality of the area.
I think they use them in Dada colleges or collages. Colleges.
It doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter.
This is a Dada college.
Dada collage.
Meanwhile, Bob Gibson should be deciding on what on earth record he should choose to finish the show.
It's already too late. It's been chosen for me.
Who by?
You.
What is it?
Your crowd. It's
Dobie Gray. Come on, tell us.
Yeah, Dobie Gray. After Cease to Exist.
That's a very long final track.
We're going to play it at 78, though.
We have a final comment, too, so don't cut us off.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
78.
You want it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
They have a final comment. You have to bring them back so the MGM Ryan line...
I always like to see people insult what they do. Good discipline.
We'll be back momentarily.
Will we?
Yes.
Oh, he's bullying me again.
Hey, it's my turn. Genesis.
Yeah?
Come in, we're back.
Oh, we're back already?
Yeah.
That was quick. I was enjoying that.
All 22 minutes.
That wasn't it, was it?
No. We'll give you a second shot at that one.
I enjoyed it. It sounded better at that speed.
We'll do the sign-off with it.
Bye-bye.
Wait, there's something else to say.
Oh,
all right.
what? Oh,
we'll say it.
Okay. There are people out there that are alone, but in another way, you're not alone. So survive.
Sounds like Jim Jones to me.
Horizontal Woodstock time.
Is that it?
I can't think of a better way to finish.
I would like to thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, I excuse the term, for joining us here at KFJC for an evening's worth of entertainment on White Noise and what follows. It's 3 o'clock exactly. This is KFJC Los Santos Hills with the wrap-up edition of the Throbbing Gristle interview.